Human civilization is developing successfully. In 2015, the first Luna colonies were built on the moon, and in 2032, the first mining operations began on Mars. In 2040, the newest spacecraft Event Horizon goes to explore the boundaries of the solar system and disappears behind the planet Neptune. 7 years have passed. Dr. William Weir wakes up from a nightmare, the sight of a wrecked ship and the dead bodies of spacemen. On his table is a photograph of a young woman named Claire, whom he misses. Having cleaned himself up, the man boards the rescue spacecraft, Lewis and Clark, which is sent on a secret mission. However, the astronauts themselves do not understand what could be secret about Neptune. The captain gives final orders and the crew prepares for sleep in stasis. Other doctors examine him. He is injected with a substance that helps the body cope with overloads and the capsule closes. It takes 56 days. One day, Weir hears his name through the dream and wakes up. He gets out of the capsule and looks around. All the crew members are asleep, but the voice continues to sound. He goes out to the control room, sees a woman in the pilot's seat, and recognizes Claire. But at this moment, she opens her eyes. Empty sockets stare back at him. He starts screaming, only to realize it was another nightmare, and he's still locked in the capsule. The crew doctors release the man and joke about him. This happens to everyone their first time. Weir goes to the bridge, where the entire crew is already gathering. Lieutenant Peters watches a video of her young son. Noticing this, Captain Miller apologizes to the woman. He tried to find a replacement for her, but the deadlines were too short. Then he introduces the doctor to the team. Senior Assistant Stark, Service Engineer Justin, Funny Guy Cooper, Medic Peters, Pilot Smith, and Dr. DJ. Weir says that a signal was recently received from the ship Event Horizon, which disappeared 7 years ago. In fact, the ship is a secret government project capable of making long-distance flights at superlight speed. The crew members take the doctor's words skeptically, because according to the theory of relativity, this is impossible. Weir explains that the theory of relativity can be circumvented. By asking a provocative question about the closest distance between 2 points, he demonstrates that by folding space, it is possible to make this distance zero. The Event Horizon engine creates an artificial black hole and uses its enormous energy to warp spacetime in such a way that the starting and ending points of the journey overlap. After that, the ship passes through the formed spatial tunnel. Then, space unfolds back into its former shape. This is called the gravity drive, and it was created by Weir. The ship was supposed to move to Proxima Centauri, the star nearest to the sun, but it went missing. Now, a signal has come from the ship, and from it, they managed to extract some information. Horrific screams and a repeated phrase in the captain's voice. DJ deciphers it as "liberate me," which means "help me" in Latin. At that moment, alarms begin to sound, signaling their approach to Event Horizon. But the ship is completely invisible. Suddenly, it emerges from the void. Its appearance surprises the crew, huge, ominous, with an unusual shape. Stark conducts a bioscan, but the instruments show a complete absence of life and icy cold temperatures inside. A research team is dispatched while Weir directs them through comms. Inside, the ship greets them with a void where all kinds of objects float in zero gravity. None of the crew members are visible. Justin inspects the gravity drive, while Peters and Captain Miller head to the front of the ship. Along the way, they find strange explosive devices, mines that could separate the front section of the ship into a lifeboat. The captain examines the medbay, but everything is in perfect order. Suddenly, a severed hand floats past his helmet. He does not show fear and moves forward. Meanwhile, Justin scans the gravity drive's core, a strange tunnel of rotating parts that resembles a meat grinder. Peters inspects the bridge and finds footprints. As she tries to retrieve the ship's log, a frozen corpse floats toward her. The body is horrifically disfigured. Its eyes appear to have been torn out, not something caused by an explosion. Then, Justin accidentally activates the core. It turns into a liquid portal and pulls him inside. At that moment, an explosion damages Lewis and Clark, causing it to lose oxygen. Justin manages to escape from the core, but he falls into a coma. Captain Miller has no choice but to transfer his entire crew to the empty Event Horizon, but the ship's oxygen will only last 20 hours. Peters restores gravity, and Stark checks the ship's systems. No communications have survived, so they cannot call for help. Meanwhile, Smith inspects the damaged Lewis and Clark and finds a massive hull breach. Doctors examine Justin, but he remains unresponsive. Cooper insists that Justin was pulled from the liquid core, but Weir ridicules the idea. The gravity drive wasn't even activated. A scuffle breaks out. The captain demands an explanation. Weir explains that the core consists of 3 magnetic rings that create a black hole for space travel. Miller orders the entrance to the room sealed. Later, Peters inspects the ship's logs but hears something in the med bay. She arms herself and investigates. Suddenly, under a medical table, she finds her son. His legs appear mutilated. Peters screams in horror, but DJ snaps her out of it. The vision vanishes. Later, the decrypted log reveals the captain of Event Horizon saying something in Latin. DJ realizes he misinterpreted it. The phrase does not mean help me. It means save yourself from hell. It turns out Event Horizon has been to another dimension, one of chaos and pure evil. Now it is alive. And it has returned. As the crew prepares to evacuate, Weir succumbs to his madness. He sees visions of his wife, hears her voice calling him home. In a final act, he gouges out his own eyes. Now, he belongs to the ship. One by one, the crew members fall, trapped in hallucinations, hunted by the darkness. In a desperate fight, Captain Miller detonates the explosives, sacrificing himself to destroy the ship. The back half is sucked into a black hole, while the front half, carrying 3 survivors, remains drifting near Neptune. 72 days later, a rescue team arrives. Stark, the only conscious survivor, awakens to the sight of a rescuer. But as he lifts his visor, she sees Weir's scarred, grinning face. She screams. The airlock door closes. Fade to black. Did the ship truly die? Or is it still waiting beyond the horizon?